Hi, I'm Gary Null. I'd like to welcome you to another Classroom on the Air. Today's one that impacts a lot of people, digestion. But what could be so complicated about digestion? We eat food, and in the process we chew it up, and two little holes under the tongue secrete enzymes, amylase and ptyalin, that help break down those complex carbohydrates. Remember all the complex carbohydrates, potatoes, potato chips, and French fries, and rice, beans. All right, these are all carbohydrates, but the body can't absorb something in a macro form, a big form. It has to be really broken down, almost the consistency of a soup. All right, so what we do is we chew. If we take our time and chew, proper mastication, so when we're chewing, our tongue is moving the food around in the mouth, and these enzymes are insalivating it, so it helps to break down a polysaccharide, many, to a monosaccharide, a single. Makes it simple. Now, if you're taking 1-2 chops of food and then swallowing it down with a cold beverage, especially a carbonated cold beverage with caffeine in it, that disrupts the entire digestive process. And that's why today many people are overfed and undernourished. But Gary, I'm big. I'm absorbing all those nutrients. No, you're absorbing calories, principally from carbohydrates and fat. When you eat a sugar, all those calories are absorbed. Sugar requires no digestion in the mouth or in the stomach. It'll be absorbed. That means a lot of empty calories. You don't want a lot of empty calories. We're a nation that is morbidly obese or overweight, and that shortens your lifespan. That contributes to an increase in heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, depression, cancers. You don't want that. So you want to be trim, strong, flexible. You want to have endurance, stamina, strength, balance. You want to be vital. In fact, there was a whole school of thought at one time called Vitalism, where people knew that the more things they ate that were raw and living, like vegetables and fruits and nuts and seeds, the more vital they would be. In fact, we proved that in the laboratory. I proved that at the Institute of Applied Biology, where I was the head of the anti-aging division department, where I fed rats, over 1,000 rats, a raw food diet, where everything was rich in enzymes, fiber, essential fatty acids, the good fats, and that walnuts and almonds, pistachios and pine nuts, hazelnuts, filberts, cashews, Brazil nuts. That's where you get your really good oils for your heart, for your brain, for energy. And then olive oil and olives. And that's what I fed the rats, right? And one group that was fed this kind of diet, what we would call a living foods diet, where most of it was raw, they lived almost 30% longer and were much healthier than the normal ones that get this compressed rat chow that's highly processed. And I gave them juices, fresh made vegetable juices. And again, they lived longer. I gave them intermittent fasting and they lived longer, 27% longer. So just imagine if you did intermittent fasting, you had a lot of fresh juices, and then you also had a healthy diet with a lot of raw food, not all, but a lot of it. And you're going to live a much longer life and prevent disease. Isn't that the object of the exercise? So when you wake up in the morning, you feel good, and you know that you're not processing illness, because you literally have to process illness. So it's as simple as taking your time not to have the beverages with your meal. Wait about an hour later, because it dilutes the stomach acid, the hydrochloric acid, and all the enzymes that go in there, pepsin and amylase and lipase. You don't want that diluted. So now in the stomach, if you're not stressed, it takes, depending upon what you've eaten and how much you've eaten, and we overeat at a given meal, because we've been conditioned to buy the big meals, where we get a lot of food. And we don't need a lot of food. We don't need a lot of protein. Your body can't store that extra protein, so it turns it into extra calories, meaning fat, and it's toxic. The process of breaking down the amino acids from the food means you're creating urea and ammonium. Both are not good for the kidneys or liver and can create brain fog. So if you take your time and you relax, put on some music, soothing music, something soft, and you do a nice presentation on the plate. You just don't slop food on a plate. Make a nice presentation. I've written, I guess, 9 cookbooks, and I've won a lot of awards with my cookbooks for just the display. I started the first vegan restaurant, gourmet vegan restaurant in America, in the whole country. It was called the Fertile Earth. It was in 1970. And when you came in, you could get a whole gourmet meal. And the food I grew on my farm upstate, the Fertile Earth Farm, bring it down every day. And we were open from 4 until 11, packed. And it was up near Columbia University. And a normal meal would cost around $7. But a student said that, what can I get? And I said, well, how much money? I was there behind the counter. And he said, well, I only have $2.50. I said, well, you get a whole meal. Okay. Then he told his buddies, then everybody from Columbia, not the rich students, the regular students, started eating there. And I said, well, I'm going to give you a $2.50 meal, which cost me more than that to make, from 4 o'clock until 6 o'clock. Then it's regular meals. And we were packed. They got organic, delicious, gourmet vegan meals, but I mean real gourmet. It looked like you were in a 5-star restaurant, because I believe in presentation. I could wear a sweatshirt. I'm on the air, right? Joe Rogan does. He does an interesting show. People don't mind that. But I'm a person that believes in presentation, just like behind me. Last night, I just rearranged all this. What is this, you're asking? What's all that stuff? Well, that's only from my documentaries, and that's only probably 10%. Over 1,030 awards for outstanding documentaries on important topics. And I don't go into it. I don't brag about it. I don't talk about it. You've never heard me say, oh, I just won this, I won that. I don't do that. I live in the moment. That's behind me. That's history. I'm now working on my newest film, which I'll be releasing in another 6 weeks. And so that's how my life goes. And, but it's just, it's a nice backdrop because I'm not in a studio. So I had to create my own little studio here. But in any case, I like to do things where we raise the bar on creativity, on presentation. So when people came into the restaurant, they just didn't get a salad. They got a beautiful salad. It looked like a piece of art. People would bring in their cameras and take pictures. And I always made enough food, not just for the dinner, but for the lunch the next day. Why? Because why not? Because that saved people the cost of buying a lunch, making a lunch. So I just made extra, and I always let them know, we'll brown bag it for you so you can take it home and have it tomorrow. Oh, good. All right, they were happy about it. But just think about, don't just throw something on a plate. Present it. See if you can't be artistic. You can go up online, and in fact, those of you who get the Gary Null newsletter, on every newsletter, we always have a recipe and a photograph to show you how artistic it can be. And if you have a date and you make a beautiful meal and you make beautiful presentation and you put, even on the table, put rose petals around the dish, something goes, wow, that's interesting. I mean, who doesn't like that? We don't go to museums to look at wheelbarrows with shovels in them. All right? We don't. We go to see art from different artists' perspective throughout history. And they didn't do sloppy work. No, they did unique work, creative work. Why can't we continue that trend of being unique and creative? So just something to think about. I've also done some documentaries to show you how other chefs around the United States do that. If you go to GaryNull.com, you can see the 12 chefs. I think it's about, 14 hours long. It's a bunch of DVDs. But I'm always excited when I go to another country and see how they prepare their food. The Japanese and the French are unique of all the nations. The Italians have great food, Spanish have great food, but the presentation of the Japanese and the French is just, it's worth the trip alone. I remember being in France one time, and I went to just a regular restaurant, not a fancy restaurant, not an expensive restaurant, not a famous restaurant, just a side street restaurant. And I went in and I said, what's your menu? And I'm looking at the menu, everything had cream, and I'm a vegan. So I said, well, I'm a vegan. Would there be any difficulty, or I'd pay extra if you could maybe throw in some vegetables? They said, not to worry. Okay. So I'm sitting there, and about 15 minutes later, this dish comes out. If you're watching, it was this big. It was a big circular platter, and it was what they called a crown of vegetables. Like they had lettuces on the outside with different sauces on them, and then they had different types of vegetables, some grilled, some stir fried, and everything was, and brown rice in the middle. It was beautiful. I mean, and I went back in the kitchen. I said, I'm also a gourmet vegan chef, and I just want to commend you, because in the United States, you couldn't get this dish anywhere. He just shrugged his shoulders. He says, we get a lot of people coming in who are also vegan, and we always make something special for them. You can't get a bad meal in Italy or France, by the way. It'd be difficult. So why should we settle for anything less when we're sitting down, except a beautiful environment, something soft playing, looking at something that looks like a little piece of art that we made, either for ourselves, because look, I'm a single guy, all right? And I'm living here. Do you think I just throw something together? No. Don't do that. I take my time, I go into my garden, I harvest fruits and vegetables, go to the farmer's market, pick up other things. I sprout maybe 50 different types of sprouts, microgreens, and they're easy to do. And then I make a beautiful meal, and then I sit and I just meditate for a moment or two about how grateful I am for the chance to be alive another day, to help being in service to those who would in some way find value in whatever I share. And so you are showing appreciation for what you're eating, because you're going to become what you're eating. So just as an important thought, if you are what you eat, why would you want to be junk food as a person? Imagine yourself metaphorically just transforming into an old beat up car, a total car in a junkyard. No. I want to be that 57 Chevy convertible, 100-point restoration. Think better of yourself. Think better for yourself. Raise the bar. Take your time. I don't rush through anything. If it's a conversation, I take my time. If it's a commentary, I don't give the little short. I give the long, in-depth with context. Commentary. I'm doing one today. Go to GaryNull.com to download it, or PRN.Live. And what am I talking about today? The whole world. I'm talking about every one of our institutions, the problems we have, and the solutions we have. But it'll take almost a whole hour to do it. Is it worth it? I believe it is, because a lot of people need help making decisions now. And this will help, I believe, them make better decisions, better choices, who to trust, what to believe, what to do, sanctity of your body, what you allow and what you say no to. That's today's commentary. I have no idea what I'm going to make for my meal today, but I can assure you it'll be interesting. I'll take my time. I won't rush. All right? If I'm reading something, I'm not going to rush. If I'm enjoying my animals at my animal sanctuary down here in Florida, because last night I was sitting and I had both 2 rescue dogs and 2 rescue cats just sitting there, and they're just hanging out with me. I'm just enjoying the sunset. I can be doing something else, but that brings balance back into life. You can have lots of fun, go dancing, and find joy in all the exciting things in life, but there's also importance for quiet time as well in nature. So now what does this all have to do with digestion? It has everything to do with digestion. Because I just helped someone overcome their constipation. Why? Because the person was stressed. And when you're stressed, your entire electrical charges to your intestine change. And why do you think digestion stops when you're stressed? I mean, it really is difficult. That's why animals in Africa, when the prey are running like a zebra or wildebeest from a lion, they're not just digesting food, they'll vacate and run. They want all the energy into their muscles, to their lungs, fight or flight response. What if you walk around stressed? Or what if you're very stressed, you're anxious about something, and you go to have a meal? You will not digest that in the same way. The likelihood is you'll eat too fast. You won't choose your food. You won't masticate. Remember, the stomach does not have teeth. The stomach cannot chew your food if you have not properly masticated it in your mouth. From there, if you eat too much, if you drink liquids and expands the stomach, you've created a mess. So now, the only way, so once you've eaten, if you've eaten while you're relaxed and calm, digestion occurs. Don't overeat. Don't fill yourself up. Stop eating when you can still eat some more. That means your digestion is going to go faster. Make sure you have good quality fibers like blueberry fiber and celery fiber, the ligocellulose. It speeds up digestion, cleanses the intestine. That's important. And then when you have the essential oils, that slows it down a bit. But at least you're getting full absorption of the nutrients because you've masticated the food in the mouth. Now you're allowing the hydrochloric acid in the stomach to kick in to break it down further. So by the time the food leaves your stomach through the pyloric sphincter and the duodenum in the beginning of the intestine deacidify the food, it's about the consistency of soup, a puree soup. All right? And then as it goes through the intestine, the duodenum, that's the area where you have all these tiny little, millions of these tiny little filaments coming down. That's what absorbs the nutrients. That's how nutrients go from the macro to the micro, where they can be absorbed. But if you're just eating under anxious conditions and then stressing yourself and rushing around, large chunks of food exit the stomach. They cannot be absorbed into the bloodstream to be used as nutrients, but they can get through the intestinal barrier into the bloodstream. And when that happens, the body doesn't look at that as, some tofu or string bean. It looks at it as a foreign agent and then attacks it. And it's part of what we call leaky gut syndrome. And that's not good because every time you eat, then your body's attacking itself. So now your immune system, which should be all over the body helping with bacteria and viruses and parasites, it's now right here in the intestinal area. And as a result, you're exhausting your immune system every time you end up eating. So then if you're overly anxious, the whole peristalsis, the wave-like rhythmic movement that moves food through the intestine, it slows down, hence constipation. Now you've got all this fecal matter backed up and congesting. And that's where inflammation, diverticulitis, yes, all the itises, spastic colon, Crohn's disease, all these inflammatory conditions happen when you have all this debris backed up. So you want to clean that through. You want to eat a meal and vacate a meal and absorb the nutrients for your cells. All the fiber, you'll be able to do that in a healthy way. No colorectal cancer there. But if you don't do that, if you go about eating the way most people eat, very fast and very overeating and having alcoholic beverages with your meal, all of that completely throws your normal digestive system into chaos. So, what do? Pay attention to the basics. I'll bet your grandmother told you, chew your food a certain number of times. She was right. Hope this helps. So the next time you go to eat something, ask yourself, are you a fast junk food eater? Or are you slowing it down, taking your time, saying, hey, if I'm going to become something, if my heart, my brain, my tissue is going to become something, shouldn't it be something good? Yes, it should. Every day, noon to 1 Eastern Standard Time, go to PRN.Live. That stands for the Progressive Radio Network. PRN.Live, you can hear my show. If you miss it, you can go to the archives. PRN.Live, go to the archives and download the show. No wasted time there. Lots of good information. Every day it's different. All right? Thank you all for taking your time to watch. Share this information with others and have a nice day.
Are you tired of closed-minded programming? Well, look no further than PRN.Live, the home for progressive voices.